Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching this. I wanted to tell you this is a little time sensitive.
With that, let's move into a meditation and a message from Kryon. Take a moment to relax into the space in which you exist. Feel the energy of the earth below you. Let's give gratitude and thanks to this wonderful divine energy of Mother Earth that loves us, supports us. We exist because of the beautiful partnership we have with the planet. And take a moment to reflect on who you are and why are you here. The who you are is a divine, magnificent human. The why you are here is the reason of the shift in consciousness for collectively, as we raise our consciousness, the entire vibration of the planet changes. And as we change ourselves, we pave a way for others to follow. You may place your hands on your heart and feel into the magnificence of that statement. As we change ourselves, we pave a path for others to follow. We now give gratitude and thanks for the message from Kryon that is changing our path.
Greetings, dear ones. I am Kryon of Magnetic Service. Dear ones, this month we have been giving you 4 parts to a subject that I will describe yet again. This is part 2. And the subject is this: spectacular truths that make people question that which is true or not. Controversial they are. Spectacular, then, controversial truths is the subject. And we have chosen 4 things that we have discussed before many times, but we are putting them together in this entire month for a reason. We're grouping them for a reason, so that you will hear them as a group and realize perhaps what we have said so many times: things are not always as they seem. I hesitated a little bit when I wanted to say that word, controversial. And here's why. The audience I speak to right now, the membership that I speak to right now, is what they would call on board with this particular controversial truth. And yet this particular channeling will be heard by thousands who are not in that membership. And they need to hear me say something yet again. More controversial this will be to those on the street rather than those, perhaps, who are light workers or old souls. And here it is. Dear ones, this galaxy of yours is teeming with life like yours. Did you hear that? I'm not talking about microbes that you may find on the moons of the planets in your solar system. I am talking about those who may even look like you. A while back, we gave a full channeling about this. We told you the truths of science about this, that science and astronomy in general, those astronomers are looking for life because they now realize that the elements that created life on this planet in the form that they did and the reasons they did exists everywhere. So for you to think that you are alone completely in this galaxy and that there is no other life is really very comical. Like a man who perhaps grew up on a desert island because they were marooned perhaps with their family and they'd never been anywhere else and they'd never had contact with anyone else, looks around on that island and sees the beach and says, I wonder if there are other beaches on this planet. Because they haven't seen any. And they haven't thought about the fact that what created that beach creates hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of beaches just like that one, everywhere. This is your planet. What makes this startling, controversial, is that they have not presented themselves to you as a society, as anything, and said, hello. Now, there are those who would say, well, yes, we know that they have come and they've gone and whatever. I'm not talking about that. Dear ones, there are many things that you should understand and realize about this particular subject. So let us start at the beginning, but we condense it because we have given this before. The galaxy, all of it, is approximately the same age because it was created as one thing. Within the universe and the age of the universe, this galaxy is similar to other galaxies. But within this galaxy, the age of it is similar all over. The trillions of suns are the same stuff that made your sun. And the time that they've been there is approximately the same for so many of them. Science has discovered, and it hasn't been that long ago, that there are planets that are Earth-size in a habitable zone, that is, right where you are, the distance from the sun you are, all of the things, the orbit that you have, that there are planets just like yours in the habitable zone around stars in this galaxy. And they have given you numbers. In the billions they exist. Billions. Not just a few. And if you look at that and you say, well, the elements are the same, the time is the same, what are the odds that life exists like yours in other places in your galaxy? And a statistician would have a lot of fun with this because they would say it is a guarantee that they are there. And they are. But still, there are those who postulate they don't exist because you haven't heard from them. Now, let me tell you fact number 2. Your biologists and those who study the earth will tell you that life on this planet started actually 2 or 3 times. And that it didn't get a start that lasted, and millions of years went by before suddenly it took, meaning that photosynthesis came along and life started and remained and has been there ever since. You had a late start, dear ones. Now this is something you can find in biology, in those who are the experts and talk about this planet, how long it's been there, how long life has been here. If you think about this, what are the potentials that the other Earth-sized planets in this galaxy, in that habitable zone like yours, did not have a several million year postponement of life in the development that you see now? The odds, once again, are in the favor that you are the new kids on the block, and you are. We've given you this information again and again, controversial, strange to so many, but then there's the scientist who is shaking their head going, makes sense. You haven't seen it. You haven't talked to them. But I'm here to tell you, as I have so many times, you have a galactic family that knows you're here. Why is this so spectacular? The reason is because of all of those Earth-sized planets that have life on them now that may be way advanced than you are. The spectacular part is they know you. And the spectacular part is they know what's happening here, especially since 2012. There is a galactic family you will meet someday, and you will think it is so naive of you and humanity in general to have ever doubted they were there. Again, why aren't they here now? Why aren't they here talking to you now? Those same statisticians who would agree that life must be out there may then take a breath and say, well, the statistics aren't near as good because they haven't said hello. They haven't contacted. Maybe they're too far away. That is not the answer. Maybe they don't have a way to contact you because of the distance. That's not the answer. They're waiting for something, dear ones. I have said this before. I want you to follow along with the reality of a scenario I'm going to give you. Let's say tomorrow you will have some kind of spaceship come down and land on the White House lawn in preparation to say hello. What would happen to that craft? Do I have to tell you? It wouldn't make it to the lawn. It would be shot out of the sky before it ever had a chance. Now, what I'm going to tell you is from your galactic family, a message. This planet is still barbaric. This planet has not grown up yet. It's too dangerous for them to come. All of your science fiction movies regarding ETs is very interesting. It has them coming to you as a danger. They're going to steal your gold, take your oceans, and kill humanity. Some have even said they're coming to eat us and you. I'll tell you this again, if you haven't thought about it. Dear ones, that is a consciousness that you have, not your galactic family, who is far more advanced in consciousness and even love. Not all of them, but the majority. You are the dangerous ones. And it's interesting that you put upon yourselves the very stories in your scientific movies and your science fiction reflects your own consciousness of what you expect from the outside, conquering, harm. When they finally meet you as the galactic advanced family, you will see compassion, love, because they have gone through what you are learning to do right now. So many have gone through a turnaround. They have the same creative force. That creator which created you and your soul created them and their soul. Did you ever think of that? What if you soul share on a regular basis with those from other places in this galaxy? What if you did? And the answer is you do. Did you know that since a soul is absolutely eternal, there's no beginning and no end? Did you understand and realize? Have you ever thought about it? Maybe you've been on the other planets yourself. Maybe you have what we will call galactic past life experience. Wouldn't that be something? Well, it is true. Spectacular, controversial, hard to figure out. How does it work? All of these things, dear ones, will come about in a way that will explain themselves as you go. This galaxy is filled with family, benevolent family. There are some, dear ones, who would visit this place called Earth and come and go because they can't stay, because they're not the ones that are coming later. The ones that are coming later will look a lot like you, and they will tell you stories about what they went through, which is much like what you are going through. Maybe some of those will be 1,000,000 years older than you, perhaps even more. They will be the masters. You will hear from them. How soon, Kryon, will I hear from them? And the answer is, as soon as you make those changes on this planet that we have told you about over and over, that are now only beginning to start. This is a truth, dear ones, a major truth. Spectacular it is. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching this. I wanted to tell you this is a little time sensitive. Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. I bring you a message tonight that is overdue. It's a message of benevolence and love, of beauty, of hope. As humanity starts to turn a corner, away from an old energy into a new energy, it sounds like a trite colloquialism. The old to the new, but this is profound. For the old energy represents staples of consciousness and the ways of being, which are going to be eliminated with a new, more advanced and elegant, evolved consciousness that is coming. And we wish to tell you yet again what to expect. And it centers around one word. There is a time that my partner and his partner will never forget. Not too long ago, in the place that you call India, they had an audience with a man. And the man is known as the Dalai Lama. The Dalai Lama is respected, renowned, loved by hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of human beings who have heard him and seen him, been with him. And he goes over that bridge of what you would call organized religion. For the Christians and the Jews would all sit in his presence. The Muslims would understand when they could see the oneness of God represented in the man. And when he would speak in these groups, there would be a suspension for a little while of any separatism. And the light shone out of him. And there my partner was, about to meet him. He'll never forget it. It's etched into his akash, which will go through the veil. And he'll remember a time, even in another lifetime, where he met a holy man who was correct and true. The first thing the Dalai Lama did was to grab the hand of my partner and his partner. They were holding hands. It's all my partner could do to suppress weep. Could this really be happening? And in his own cheerful, joyful way, the Dalai Lama mentioned some things, asked some questions. Where are you from? What's going on? And he looked in the eyes of my partner and his partner and made a statement. It's simple, but profound. It's something that he said that anyone who knew him would expect him to say, but my partner got to hear his voice say it to him. And he said, I believe in oneness. Profound it is because this changing consciousness on the planet is changing from separatism to oneness. And it's doing it in subtle ways and not so subtle ways. But you can see it operate so clearly because of what is coming. You can see it operate because separatism is starting to look ugly. And yet that was always the way of it. I want to walk you through predictions, situations, instructions, some of which may surprise you. All given in love and from a source that has seen this before and knows what's coming that is potentially beautiful. Not all at once, dear ones, and we've said this before, but let me plant the seed of what I see. Only a few years past 2012, and already you're experiencing the old staleness of separatism. And it's not feeling good or looking good. Let me tell you where this might go. Because you're going to see the actual coming out from separatism to oneness in the oddest places. I think the most remarkable one that you're going to see, and when you do it, you remember this channel, is in commercialism, in business. Imagine for a moment, I'm going to give you something that is laughable today and could happen tomorrow. Imagine for a moment two soft drink companies who I'll name, Pepsi and Coca-Cola, coming together in one giant pavilion in a conference and inviting everyone to come in and taste their soft drink and enjoy it, because they know that between the two brands there will be some who want one and some who want the other. But by combining the two into one place, they'll sell more soft drinks. It's not separate anymore, is it? What was the old system? I'll call it competitive war. That's what the old system was, completely and totally separate, completely. And one would say, we have the best, don't do the other. Here's the blindfold test. You're going to like ours better. And the other one will then say the same, and they'll change the brand, and they'll change the taste, and do this and that, all so that they will be ahead of the other one. And suddenly, somewhere, someone is going to have an odd idea. And the boardrooms are going to guffaw and laugh and roll their eyes for a moment. What if we came together knowing very, very succinctly that there is a taste for both on this planet? And that when we come together, we're going to show a oneness that says, we're not going to tell you anything. We have just got some great drinks here. Why don't you come and enjoy them? And for those who have never tasted the one and just tasted the other, there will be some who will make a change and some who won't. And it won't matter. Because in the end, they will have achieved even more than any kind of a commercial war that they would ever have. The end of separatism and the admonishment to others that perhaps the old ways aren't working as well. That some new paradigms coming together would work far, far better. Will you ever see that? And the answer is yes, sooner than you think. The appearance of oneness in any form and the lack of separation is what I'm asking you to look for. Dear ones, those who separate will eventually go into their own corners, Separation creates war. Separation creates mistrust in any form at all. It means there's them and there's you. A oneness brings together 2, 3, 4 sides, it doesn't matter, into a coalition, a way of confluence that creates things you didn't expect. I want to talk to Americans in the room. I want you to go back with me and pretend. I want you to pretend you were there at the signing of the Declaration of Independence. I want you to pretend that you could see the faces of the founding fathers who started the democracy you have today. I want you to listen to them when they say this is the start of something different. And they're right. Majority rule, minority rights, a chance for everyone. Dissension is okay. Anyone can be successful. What an idea. But they were smart. And even in the creation of your country's constitution, they understood there would be change. There would be amendments. And they understood there would be dissension and party differences, and they would not stop. There would be no coalition of oneness there. They understood the separation was important. But they built the Constitution so that when the two sides would come together, they would make laws that were better. Better because the two sides had come and compromised and negotiated and built laws that would remain to this day in their wisdom and strength, because the two sides have put them together. That was then, and that's not happening today. Today it has become separatism. And the idea of oneness is not there, dear ones. It is simply gone. And the founding fathers, if they could see what's happening right now, right today, would weep. And they would say, it's not the way we designed it. It just isn't the way we designed it. We didn't design it to have elections where winner would take all and battle the opposition until the next election, and winner would take all and battle the opposition, and nothing would get accomplished. That's today. Ultimate separatism. Once again, I tell you that what seems to be broken can be repaired by oneness. There will come leadership that understands this. There will be those who would run for the highest office of the land, who will obfuscate what they actually believe on purpose and tell people, I'm a centrist. I believe a lot of the red that is good and the blue that is good, and I'm going to put them together. You elect me for negotiation, not for the party, and not for the color, and not for anything except the ability to come and put this together so that the laws are done and they're strong because of it. And dear ones, when that happens, I want you to remember this channel. Someone is coming. This will be obvious to so many. It is what is needed in order to return to the basic idea that two sides, even 3 or 4, can come together and negotiate for strength, for common sense, without name-calling and without battles. A oneness even with cultural differences. The idea of separate is going to go by the wayside. And when it does, you'll breathe a sigh of relief. And you'll say, no more of this. Soon, it'll occur to those who will run for the highest office in the land. It'll occur to them so plainly that they must be one who can negotiate, bring together, and never separate again. That's just 2 areas. There are so many more. But the one I want to talk about, I'll talk about in a way I've never talked about before. On this planet, there are many cultures, and those cultures bring about differences when it comes to spiritual things. Do I have to tell you that even a planet that believes in one God, the beautiful love of one God, is responsible for more wars than anything else? Arguing over one God. That is separatism. And the separatism has been there for a long time. The separate that says, my prophet has the truth, yours does not. And this is the staple of the consciousness of the organizations to this day. All of them to this day. For the exception of 2. The oldest ones on the planet, who actually are the ones without a prophet. Interesting, isn't it? But I don't want to talk about those. I want to tell you this, that the end of separatism will happen there as well. And you're going to start seeing it. You're going to start seeing it in gentle ways, where the prophet's words and actions and love supersede doctrine. I want to do something I've never done before, and then I want to give you an example, a vision. I want to talk to Christians. Now, I would like to tell you that I'm very aware that most Christians will not be interested in listening. In fact, they will not be listening at all. Because most Christians that are invested in the beautiful Savior that they have are told that only those who believe as they believe are to be listened to. And therefore, these words will not be heard. Not now, but they will be heard. Because there are many who will be alone. And you know who you are, Christian, listening to this right now. Because what I'm going to give you will enhance everything you believe and more. I want to tell you about the man that you worship. It's bigger than you think. It's bigger than you were told, even. This man who walked the earth, who had so much happening. I'm going to give you stories tonight that you don't even know, that are not in Scripture, that'll make you weep with joy. This man knew God. Not much was told in your Scripture about his background. It seemed like he simply appeared and did his thing. Oh, he studied. In order to get to that place where he was who you worship, there were years where he went through the opposition to what he believed. Remember, he was a Jew. And what he started preaching and what he started looking at, even as a young man, even in training, went so against the grain of everything that was there. They even called him the wicked priest. Wicked because he was against the truth of the land, what the Hebrews knew. But by the time he was Jesus, as you know him, that's what I want to talk about. Here is a man who was ascended in his consciousness, in his DNA, so much higher above anyone else who had ever walked the planet at that moment. The man who could walk on water was the man who could walk on water, because he had control over physics. He had control over health, over so many things. There are miracles you never knew he could do. Let me ask you. You were told that he had the multitudes that would listen to him, and you could hear a pin drop. How could the multitudes hear one man on a rock? How could 1,000 people without amplification hear one man on a rock? I'll tell you, they all did, as though he was in their face, talking in their ear with the most gentle, loving voice you can ever imagine. That was Jesus. Did you ever think of that miracle? And then if he talked too long, he fed them with food that wasn't there. That's the Jesus. Did you ever talk about what happened when he went home? No. You just got to hear about the feasts and the meetings and all that. Do you think they let him alone? They slept around where he lived. They followed him everywhere he went, because what he had exuded love and compassion and oneness. Exuded it. All you wanted to do was follow him. You could feel it. That's the energy I talked about this morning. That's the energy that has no name yet, that says, I don't know what it is, I want it, and I'll follow you for it, because it's the love of God. All right, Christian, I want you to listen to this. Did you hear about the Roman centurion? No. Well, I'll tell you. There are so many things you don't know about that enhance this man's beauty, even above that which you read in your scripture from the apostles. The Romans watched Jesus carefully to see if he would say anything that would be against the emperor or Caesar or the politics. And he didn't. Because then they could put him in jail instantly. And he didn't. He talked about love. He said, listen, this is the way of it. It's through me that you're hearing this. Listen, this is the way of it. This is the truth of it. And he talked about the beauty of compassion of God, not about politics. And the centurion listened. But one time, just the one time, that Jesus turned and looked him in the eye, knew he was there. And there was a silence, and the centurion looked at him in the eye, and it was all over. One glance from the master, one smile from the master, and it melted the centurion's heart. Melted it. He left his post, he went home, took off his helmet and his armor, and he took his family and he left. He knew he had to get out of town because that was abandoning his post, but he knew he was wrong in what he had done. He had met Jesus. He had met the Master with one glance. That's who that was. You got a good guy here if you decided to worship, Christian. Let me tell you another thing about Jesus. He looked over the multitudes, and in his wisdom, he knew who the liars were. He knew who the thieves were. He saw the prostitutes and even those who'd killed other people. And he never said a word. Because he was not separatist. He was oneness. The love of God sees them all equally, and he said so. Dear Christian, you have a personal relationship where he can walk with you and talk to you and tell you that you're family. The man was about oneness. There was no judgment. Never. Beautiful. Even above what you think. Can you imagine being there? So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to give every Christian listening instructions. This nation predominantly is Christian that I speak in right now, so that's who I'm talking to. And if you will take it from me, I'm going to give you some instructions. You're told by your leadership you should be evangelistic. Good. I'll give you instructions on how it works. I want you to emulate the man you worship. If he could look you in the eye right now and you could be there in any of the assemblies and he could see you right now, he would look at you and say, go and emulate what you see. Go and emulate what you see. If you want followers, I want you to emulate that which is the Christ. When you look upon those around you, I want you to see the oneness that he saw. There weren't categories of those who believed and disbelieved or were doing it right or wrong. There was only love. There was only the compassion that God can give to a man like that who knew God. If you want followers, you will have the compassion of Christ everywhere you walk. And eventually, because of this and the oneness that you will give, the people will come to you and say, I don't know what you got, but I love it. And that's when you can say, look, why don't you come and have a worship service with me? This is the way you do it. If you want to be fishers of men, this is how you fish. You do it with compassion. You do it with love. And may I tell you this, you don't do it with separatism. You don't do it by pointing at the others and saying, you got it wrong. Not only that, you're going to die in hell if you don't do it right. You don't make lists that are fearful and push people away. I'll tell you, Christian, that builds a wall. And that's not what your guy did. He never built a wall. Ever. Right to his last breath. Never built a wall. Looked upon his executioners just like he would look upon his mother. Compassion, love, and that's what's attractive. Now, did that hurt so much? Doesn't it make sense that you would emulate the Christ and that is where it's at? I've got a vision to give you, and the vision will be the end of the channel. It's a metaphor. It's about pillars that are holding up an enormous amount of weight, a roof, a ceiling. There's 5 or 6, maybe 7 of them. And they have to agree and be in oneness because each one shares the load. And I'm going to identify what that load is on top that they're supporting in a minute. None of those pillars can be separatists because they cannot remove themselves from this paradigm, this image, because then the whole structure would fall. You have a pillar which is the Buddhists, the Hindus, the Jews, the Muslims, the Christians. Cultures of this planet will always have differences. They'll always have their prophets. That's not going away. But what's different is this, is that there'll come a time when all of the pillars agree about the oneness. They'll not make the other pillar separate. They will include all of them in compassion. They'll keep their prophet. They'll believe what they believe, and they will be happy they believe it, but they'll not turn to the other one and say, you're wrong. They'll not turn to the other one and say, and because you're wrong, we must kill you. That is separatism. That is going away. What is that weight they're holding? I'll give it a name. Because this is the key. The weight they're holding, all of the pillars in oneness together, called peace on earth. It is needed. This is the key. Lack of separatism, especially when it comes to organized religion. Turn to your prophets and the source and relearn what it is you're doing, dear ones. Instead of turning to the rules made by men so long ago to keep you separate. Instead, think of the oneness of the Master and the fact that he never separated out a group. And then think of what you're doing today. There is so much love for all of you to go around. And just like the Pepsi and just like the Coca-Cola, there will be those attracted to your pillar and to the other pillar. And the billions of people on this earth will live in a peaceful coalition of understanding and oneness, disagreeing perhaps of who might have the best, but including it all. Separateness is starting to fail. You will see it. I mean to offend no one today. I come to you in love and benevolence in an angelic way to say things are getting better. Listen. Just listen. You might learn something. And so it is. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching this. I wanted to tell you this is a little time sensitive.
So let's go there right now. Let's go into the core of our being, where we have an eternal fountain of peace. Inside of every human is eternalness of your soul. And it is always in a state of peace. How does that feel for you to be peaceful? When I ask, imagine yourself in the most peaceful, relaxed environment. Where is that for you? That is an image or a feeling you can always call to yourself in moments that you need it the most. Perhaps your peace is floating on the ocean or in the river, somewhere floating in water. Perhaps your peace is in a forest with trees and birds. Perhaps your peace is on a mountain. Or perhaps your peace is with your loved ones. Wherever that place is for you, it is eternal. And in this eternal space, we welcome the beautiful, loving messages from Kryon.
Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. Again, I will say to you, there is complete and total awareness of spirit on the other side of the veil, creative source, God, whatever you say, complete awareness of this moment. That you are here listening, hoping perhaps for an energetic message that would be directed for you. Indeed, it can be and it will be if you understand it's a personal message. It always is. It doesn't lay there for the masses. It's personal. You have come to this place on purpose to listen. And that is the point. That is a reaching out of you, if you thought of it or not, an intent, if you thought about it or not, to hear something, to feel something, to learn something. The messages that I am giving this month, 4 of them. This is number 2. A call on the catalysts for healing. Now, when you look at the word catalyst, you could define it. And you could define it scientifically if you wish to, chemically if you wish to. I'd say it's an energy which helps change something else. It's a concept which helps understand and change something else. That's how we're using it. So these catalytic energies to healing are things that we are saying, if you have this, it will help with the healing. That is something perhaps very unique for you. Whether it's to be healed of a disease, whether it's to be healed of an attitude, or a concept, or fear, that's a healing. And this is why this second one is so important. Let's review. The first one was be aware of how strong your words are. And some of you will say, what does that have to do with healing? And we fully explained it. Because your words can actually change the chemistry of your body, and that starts chemistry, healing, and changing, and longer life, and so many things. Now we get into something that's just a little different, because it has to do with attitude. But the attitude we're going to speak of is very, very important and has been lost by so many. Here it is. Number 2. Find your inner child. Now, there are those who say, uh-oh, inner child talk again. You know, Kryon, I've never understood why that's important, why I should. In fact, there are scripture verses that I read that say, when I was young, I thought as a child, and now that I'm adult, I don't have to anymore. Indeed, that scripture verse, by the way, means something completely different than what I'm telling you now. I'm telling you to rekindle and capture back something all of you or most of you had. I talked to those in many cultures, but the majority of you had beautiful childhoods. Now, there may have been issues with your parents or later on, but when you're really young, it's different from any other time in your life. Indeed, there are some of you who said, well, I've had a really, really ugly childhood and this and that, but you had friends who didn't you? So you could, let's pretend with me for a moment what it was like for them or what you saw. Most of you did, and here's what I'm getting at. You had a time when there were no worries at all. There just weren't. When you could play. Even if your parents were difficult, you can get outside of that bubble and play with your friends, and you didn't have the stress you have today. The stress that may be caused from what's going to happen next. What am I going to do about my job? What am I going to do in these times when there is lockdowns and all these? What's going to be next? What's going to affect me now? The fear that some of you have just from life itself. The worry. What's going to happen now? What's going to happen with this or that? Whether you're talking about the society or the government or the planet or darkness or light, you worry. But you didn't as a kid. You really didn't. In fact, one of the biggest worries you had is, how long can I play? Can some of you remember this? There is a sensation there, innocence, joy. You don't know the things that are coming because they're not anything. You may see them on the face of your parents back then, but you didn't experience them. This was a time of joy and laughter and innocence when you didn't worry. Now, why am I saying to you, rekindle the inner child? If you can go back to that state willingly and capture what you already have experienced and bring it to the forefront, it becomes a catalyst for that which is peaceful, that which will give you the lack of worry, dropping the fear, because you can remember being in that state. Still, there are those who say, I don't want to do this. I don't want to act as a child. I don't want to be seen stupid. And you're taking this way too literally, dear ones. We didn't ask you to behave as a child. We asked you to think of what it was like to be in a state of innocence in these first few years, till you're about 6 or 7 or even 8, when you were simply discovering the fun things and the beautiful things, and you can play with your friends and you could have little fantasies, and none of the things of earth touched you, not the way they do today. If you can go there and recapture even a portion of that, there's an interesting thing that starts to happen. The most interesting thing I can tell you is this, is that this body of yours, and now we're talking about the innate, wants you healed. Of course it does. The innate, we have talked about before, is the smart body, starts to understand what your consciousness is striving for. And in that, and we've told you this before, there starts to be help. And it's not coming from the outside. It's not even coming from angels and guides. It's coming from within. So that innate of your body, that smart body, that all it wants to do is create health for you, the innate, will start to then create avenues where you can pull in more of your inner child, including remembrances. It's an odd thing, is it not, to think that you have got a part of your own body system that is waiting and wanting to help you with things. And you thought you were in charge of everything. You're in charge of opening the doors. There are literally portals within your chemistry that are waiting to hear from the boss. And your innate is one of them. And that innate of yours, that smart body of yours, sees what you're doing and says, let's help. I see she's doing it. I see he's doing it. Let's make it even better, because the innate knows the more you can relax into the inner child and start to then drop those fears that you have because you're remembering it, the healthier you're going to be. I'm going to say something. The more you can capture the inner child that is there, the healthier you're going to be, and the avenue will be clearer for the harder things. There are still some that say, I don't know, Kryon, you don't know my upbringing. I can't remember good things. I know you're out there, dear ones, because I know who's listening. So let me give you something that is far more esoteric than even you wanted to hear. You wouldn't be watching this program unless you were a little bit esoteric, or perhaps even more, members. So listen to this. Non-members, yeah, I'll tell you, perhaps you got to work a little for what I'm about to say, but I'll tell you the membership that is listening now is more aware of these kinds of things. Do you believe that you've lived before? And most of you will say, yes, I do. I want you to go to that lifetime which is in you, which you remember, which is in your innate and in your consciousness. Past lives are still there. I want you to go to that childhood that was perfect and beautiful. Even if you have to look at a friend and say, I want to be that one, perhaps that was yours. I want you to go there, and I want you to experience what that would have been like because you lived it in a past life. Bring that forward. Mine it like a miner digs for gold. Go to your Akash and mine it and paste it upon yourself. Is that too strange? Whatever is needed for you to see the innocence, beauty, joy, and laughter of a child that you were at some lifetime, if not this one, will be valued by your innate, and you can pull it right to you. What does it get you? What does that really do, Kryon? I'll tell you. When you were a child, in any lifetime, there were times when you were so peaceful. That's what you strive for. You want to go back to the giggling, do you not? Inside, gentlemen, don't worry, you're not going to giggle. Inside, so you're joyful with everything you look at, just like a child. What is that? What is that? Do I want this? And people will say, Kryon, you don't know our culture. I can't bring out my inner child while I watch the news. How much did you watch the news as a child? And the answer is, well, I don't recall I did. Well, then turn it off and be a child. And don't watch it. If it's going to depress you, why do you watch it? Are you going to help yourself by watching it? And the answer is not really. You just want to be informed. Well, maybe for a while, you can inform yourself with your own joy and your own childlike attitudes of things that are peaceful and happy and create laughter. That is the inner child. And that is what we are telling you that you can strive for and achieve, which is a catalyst for all of the healing that you want, no matter what kind it is. Your peacefulness is something that lowers all of the anxieties and creates a playing field where the healing can begin. And it cannot begin easily with stress and fear in your life. Capture that inner child, dear ones, and see if I'm right. And so it is.